Joel Gibson is with us from One Big Switch. And the reason to get Joel on is that the other part of this, of the end of this, seems to be what several people have brought up around the energy area in particular. There are all these companies, but we don't actually, we as consumers very rarely take any initiative to go and look and move our accounts around. We don't do it in banking. We don't do it with our phones. We don't do it with power. Joel, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, James.
Is it an Australian tray? Is it a human tray? I mean, all these sort of things, it's so complicated. Like I'm going to go home tonight and look at my energy policy and see if I can save $3 if I switch companies.
I think it's a human tray, James. I don't know that we can claim exclusivity over this one. In the UK, for example, in just the last couple of weeks, Prime Minister Theresa May has announced they're going to reintroduce caps on energy prices to protect vulnerable customers. So like us, they've had the regulated markets where they imagine this ideal consumer who has the time and energy and the nous to shop around and find the perfect plan for them. But they've basically acknowledged that it's working great for some people who are comfortable doing that. But the people who aren't comfortable doing that, they're getting stiffed.
Well, I wonder whether the other truth is that in the end, there's not that much difference. And I mean, I would say that this is what I tend to find. Last time I did it was with internet provider. So the NBN came through and I said, well, let's sit down, just look at all these different programs and make sure we're getting the cheapest one, the one that's best. And they were all the same. Like, it was just swings and roundabouts. I was going to be spending $10 here or $20 somewhere else.
Well, I'd take issue with you on that one, James, mainly because I see people sometimes save hundreds and even over $1,000 on an individual product just by switching. So,
right.
I agree that there's a morass out there of very similar products in some industries, some markets. At the moment, for example, health insurance premiums are going up this week. There's over 25,000 different products in health insurance, and they broadly fall into three categories, but they're all slightly different, and that does people find that very intimidating. But especially when you're a pensioner or you're on a low income, you can save quite a bit of cash by shopping around and switching, and if you don't, you almost always end up being the cash cow that funds the big discounts for the people who do that exercise.
Can we, if in this world where we're looking at these sort of things like health insurance and energy prices and phone companies and stuff, and then we complain about the prices, should we put more blame on ourselves?
We probably should, because frankly we don't shop around often enough. I mean, you can look at the rates in Australia, for example. About 20-25% of people switch their energy provider each year. In something like health insurance, it's much lower, around 5%. And I would argue that at 5% particularly, it's just not possible to have a really competitive market if only that small percentage of people are actually shopping around each year. So I'm not saying I don't understand why people feel that they don't have the energy and the time to do this. I completely understand that. Life is busy, life is short, and household bills are, let's be honest, they can be bloody boring.
Well, but they're also hard to follow. Like, that's what I mean by when it all ends up looking the same. I will sit there, and by the time I've got I'm looking at 12 different phone companies or 12 different health insurance companies, I can't compare them. I don't know whether I'm suddenly paying less over here or more somewhere else. That's actually going to end up any different.
Yeah, and I think probably people like you and me can be our own worst enemy in that we feel we need to do a comprehensive comparison of everything out there. I mean, I sometimes use the analogy, if I want to paint my house, I'll usually get 3 quotes and I'll pick the middle one.
Yeah.
And when it comes to health insurance, the perfectionists among us think we've got to compare 25,000 different policies and find the one that's perfect for us. The reality is they all fall into 3 broad categories. And if we did get 3 quotes and pick the middle one, most times we'd end up better off than where we were.
Right. Well, I've had a vision of the future, Joel, so I wanted to run this by you. How far away are we from technology doing this for us? Like, and if we go back to the power situation, the electricity companies themselves can switch suppliers, in an instant because it's cheaper over here or there's more over there or they need to export that or they need to get this from there. Why can't that be my situation where my smart meter and my app is going, oh, guess what? They're offering this deal right now. We're switching you.
It's actually not that far away, I suspect, James. To be fair to retailers, they also enter into contracts in many cases for a year or 2 years, and the price has the built-in uncertainty around the market at the moment is built into the price that they pay. They pass it on to us, etc., etc. But they do also play the daily spot market, and there are already sort of new models of energy retail coming into Australia where people can effectively start to play the spot market. So, there's a new retailer, for example, out of New Zealand, which is one of the fastest growing ones in Australia at the moment. They have very good interactive apps that tell you, from your smart meter, tell you how much energy you're using. And they do allow you to actually buy month to month or even more frequently energy on the current price and save that way. So It's not that far off.
So at the end of each month, I could look, it would make some sort of prediction and say, okay, you'd be better off buying it over here. Does it switch me immediately, or do I have to fill out forms and sign up?
Well, it's more that they effectively buy it on the spot market on your behalf. So you don't change from retailer to retailer, but their platform doesn't lock you in, I suppose, to a certain price for a year or 2 years or whatever, that allows you to play that spot market. But here's the flip side of that coin, James.
Yeah.
We've just talked about how life is busy and we've got better things to do than ride the daily electricity spot market every day. So I just ask myself, how many of us really are going to get to that point where we actually want to interact with our energy bill on a daily basis in that way?
Well, that's what I mean by wouldn't I sign up to something that's doing it for me?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? If we could invent the artificial intelligence to find the cheapest price for you on a daily basis and then to buy it for you.
Well, is that
absolutely.
artificial? Isn't
that, on the other hand, may be some way away.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose that's sort of artificial intelligence, or it's just reading the information that's out there.
Yes,
it's just slicing up the internet and telling me. Joel, it's exciting times and bewildering all at once. So it's never been a more bewildering time to be alive. Joel, fantastic. Nice to talk to you. Joel Gibson from One Big Switch.